So the motor is a QS 180 90H, putting out about 60 kilowatts of power. I'm running the far driver ND961800B HR at about, I don't think it wants to go over about 650 line amps or about 1200 phase amps. I'm running two fans back here, one on each side. The only thing I needed to get custom made was a sprocket, the 530 12-tooth sprocket I ordered from China. There's a minimum batch quantity on it. And then I got the sprocket off, I believe, Four Seasons. It's a 54-tooth, 12-tooth front setup. And I was able to retain the stock 530 chain. And back, temporarily just lowered the skid plate with some spacers. Like I was saying, I removed the cross member from the stock location. I plugged it up, and then I raised it to fit the bigger sprocket back here for the final drive. That's kind of high on the machine. It's still kind of high. It's geared for about 84 miles an hour, running a 96 volt battery, and it does work out. But I also upgraded the axles, and I also welded the trailing arms, gussets on the trailing arms, to prevent the hub carrier from cracking, which is a known problem. Stock suspension still, everything else is stock. I ended up having to, in order to keep the sway bar, I notched out the motor mount, and it does actually slide about 1.5 inches, so it's enough to tighten the chain. If you can see in there, it's mounted on slots, 4 bolts. From the side, here's the sway bar right there. And then I had to notch out, of course, the mount as well. And then I also ground down the mount a little bit right there in order to fit the mount. Other than that, it's pretty much stock back here. I also welded this plate, of course, to mount the motor mount as well. And then moving to the front, I have one battery, a controller, and then I have 2 batteries underneath the passenger seat. The passenger seat, I had to weld, cut and re-weld the front mounts there to get it about 1/2 inch higher for the batteries to fit. And then the rear, I just did a spacer for the bolts. The front is stock. However, I also did the mod to get the seats to slide all the way back as well. So they slide all the way back about 1.5 inches, 2 inches more than stock. And I also did the Imer power steering, which is right here. And then the reverse neutral drive. And then I got a JOG display, which reads out, basically only have it hooked up for speed, tripometer and odometer, and the voltage of the battery. I put a 12 volt stock lighter socket here instead of the stock charge port for the 12 volt battery. This is a 12 volt auxiliary on, and then the key, of course, powers on the display and controller. And then I got the speed setting, a USB-A and a USB-C charge port, controller under the seat fans, drive lights, water. This is the water cooling for the controller that runs the pump and the radiator fan. And then there were 2 motor fans in the rear. I also shortened the grab bar to fit bigger riders. And I have the water cooling readout right here. And of course you can see a battery right here. Didn't quite fit behind the plastics, but I was able to retain the stock. Parking brake. And coming around to the front side, I have a 12 volt buck converter, step down converter, as well as a 12 volt lithium ion battery that supplies power to the low voltage auxiliary. And then I also have the reservoir for the water cooler, as you can see there. So the converter on the left, and the water reservoir on the right, and then I have the radiator with the fan up front there. I also did plenty of other little things to it. I did weld a plate here to protect the battery and internal components, the controller and whatnot. Right now it's running I'm running 3 batteries in parallel. It's 3 45 amp hour Amorage 96 volt batteries running to a bus bar, which then runs to the controller. So a total of 135 amp hour, which is probably good for about 75 miles, give or take. I haven't done it. And then I had the charge port here on XT60. Maximum charge rate about probably 12 amps on a 15 amp circuit. Otherwise, if it's a 20 amp, I think you can get chargers that go a little bit more, but roughly about 8 to 9 hours for a full charge from dead on 120 volt. I will mention that the 12 volt buck converter does actually step down the 12 volt power, but it also charges the 12 volt onboard battery that's connected to the key switch. So it turns on when the key switch is on. It supplies 12 volt power to the 12 volt battery to charge. And it puts out up to 600 watts of power, so it is just enough to power all of the